Welcome back to Mazars USA's Take 5. I'm Michelle Kushner, a tax senior in the Estate and Trust group here at Mazars, and I'm here today with my good colleague and friend, Izzy Tannenbaum, who is a director and practice leader for our not-for-profit sector. But before we drop into talking about COVID and the impact on the not-for-profit sector, Izzy, I want to check in. How you been holding up with this remote working situation and just everything going on during this time?
Yeah, you know, it's certainly been different. It's been a challenge. I see we both did a little bit of outdoorsy background, so kind of wishful thinking these days. But it's been a struggle, and I think everyone's kind of just struggling with being able to find some normalcy when everything has been turned upside down, between kids having to be homeschooled and everyone just sort of working from home and being on their own different schedule. It's been a challenge, and I'm sure you've probably been finding the same thing, having to work at home. Hopefully things will normalize a little bit soon and people can start getting out more. But thankfully everything is as good as it can be given the current circumstances.
Right. I mean, how many Zoom meetings have you been on where the dogs bark in the background? And which brings me to my point of, I know both of us have a dog, and during this recording, I'm really surprised that neither of this has happened right now. No barking.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. These days, I honestly just expect it. I think everyone expects it. Whereas like previously, if I was working from home and the dog was barking, it would be such a problem. Now it's like everyone's at home. No one has a choice. So everyone's just kind of go with the flow. It's been quite a difference, that's for sure. Certainly a ton of Zoom meetings.
Yeah, definitely more, it seems things have been a bit more casual, but business as usual. And so that brings us to our topic. I mean, not-for-profit, in this pandemic, it's had a huge impact on them. What do you see is going on? What's the trend? What's happening?
So it's interesting, obviously everyone is struggling with the virus, and all businesses are struggling in light of the economic downturn. But not-for-profits are actually really seeing a unique effect where they're both struggling with their current operations, but also the fact that the virus is really having such a major effect on donors, and the donors' ability to contribute has really been an issue. Many of our not-for-profit clients have had their biggest fundraisers for the year coming up in the next few months, whether these are gala dinners or other events. It's really something that they've had to sort of pivot to, because they do need to get these funds in. They were budgeting and counting on these funds, but at the same time, the whole world has changed and the donors' ability to give has dried up, so to speak, in many instances. So it's really been a struggle for not-for-profit organizations who really, their work is needed now more than ever in the current climate with the virus and everything. So they're essentially being called upon to do more and give more, and to do more good charitable work, while at the same time experiencing a slowdown in their funding for this. So it's really been a struggle for many organizations, and ultimately they're just trying to do whatever they can to be able to stay afloat and continue to provide their important services.
So in terms of doing whatever they can, what are some of the resources that they can be or should be looking into?
So there's a few options for organizations, and it really is a complex area. There's a lot of different programs and a lot of different guidance. I'll just give a high level of really the ones they should be aware of, and most people probably are aware of, hopefully at this point. So you have the one that's really the big one, the one that's had the spotlight, is the Paycheck Protection Program, or the PPP as most people are calling it. So what that really is allowed is the organization to come in and get a loan, and this is both for-profit and 501c3 not-for-profit organizations. They can really come in, get potentially a loan. There are a few requirements to figure out what your maximum loan amount is, but ultimately you can get this and then potentially have either the entire loan or a good portion of it forgiven if you use it for qualified expenses. And that's what really has made this the marquee of the relief programs, which were put out under the CARES Act. about a month ago, or maybe a little more. And so the issue with this has really been there's a limited amount of funding for it, and everyone is clamoring for this. So it's important for organizations to really just get in there and get an understanding of what is available to them, and move on that as soon as possible if they haven't already. So that's really the big one, where you're seeing that's on the tip of everyone's tongue these days, because that is really what is the most impactful. And the fact that it could potentially be forgiven and amount to what is a free government grant makes it very attractive to all types of organizations. There are a few others. The EIDL, which is really a loan program, but it's a low interest loan with deferred payments, and it's a really good option, as this one actually is available to all not-for-profits, whereas the PPP is only 501c3 entities.
Okay. Can I
So
pause
we've
you
had
real
many
quick?
clients. Yeah, sure.
What exactly is IDL for people listening?
So the EIDL is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. Essentially, it's similar to the PPP in that it's a low interest loan with deferred payments to help organizations during this time. However, there is no loan forgiveness aspect, so it's a little less attractive to people than the PPP, where you could ultimately be getting a free grant if you follow the proper procedures and have the proper spending levels. So those are two of the bigger loan programs. There are a few other things organizations can do. You're allowed to defer your payroll taxes, so your Social Security. Those type of employer taxes can be deferred at this time, and that's something a lot of organizations we've been seeing do. There's also the employer retention credit, which is a credit against employer taxes. So if you are still paying your employer taxes, up to $5,000 per employee, depending on the pay level and a few other factors, could be a refundable credit to the organization. So that can help get some cash flow in. And the other interesting thing, which I haven't seen talked about that much, but is really a good factor, is the fact that there has been an increase on the limitation for charitable contribution deductions for the rest of 2020. So previously, you'll know on all the individual work we do, if they have charitable contributions, they're getting limited to 60% of their AGI if they're itemizing. So for the rest of 2020, the government, as part of the CARES Act, in order to encourage more giving, has actually increased the AGI limitation to 100%. So I've been reaching out to my not-for-profit clients and making sure they're aware of this, and making sure that they let their donors know about this advantage, because in terms of tax planning or giving, it really is a significant advantage in 2020 to give these monies rather than another year for donors who are itemizing. And not many people may be aware of this. So I've definitely made a point to let our not-for-profit clients know that they should make sure their donors are aware of this.
Yeah, that's
and
great.
So those are just some of the options.
Right, that's a great point,
there.
Especially with the personal incentive for their individual side for the charitable deduction. In the grand scheme of things, though, are a lot of these organizations going at this alone, or is there someone that they should be, speaking with? Are they able to reach out to you, or?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're really, I want to say in the past 6 weeks, or since the CARES Act came out and all these programs got into place, we've been nonstop in assisting our clients with understanding these, and really understanding the interplay. One might preclude you from getting one relief aspect, might preclude you from getting another. So it's really important that organizations actually can see the full picture of what's available to them and ultimately analyze what would be the most beneficial. And that's something we've been helping clients, our not-for-profit clients, with nonstop since this came out. And it's interesting because it's really been a moving target in the sense that the government really put this kind of out there because they really wanted to be able to get relief monies out to organizations and other entities, but didn't really have a plan in place. So a lot of the guidance and a lot of the clarification has been coming out after the fact. So it's something we've really had to stay on the forefront of and work with our clients constantly in order to make sure they know the latest clarifications, the latest guidance, and what's really available to them. So that's obviously been tough, but it's something that we've been working very closely with our clients to make sure that they're getting the most they can out of all these different options.
Right, and that's great to hear that, you know, they're 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 knowledgeable to reach out, and hopefully, you know, they take an interest in, you know, reaching out to us, or, you know, consulting their own counsel as well. Um, Izzy, all this information is fantastic. You know, there's so much going on, and we really appreciate you taking the 5 minutes here to talk with us and help everyone out. Um, I just hope everyone out there stays safe and stays well, and you'll catch us next time on our next episode.